Good morning. I'm making a video for the first time I'm reading the book called A Course in Miracles right now, and it's a book that you can't just, or at least I can't, just read through it and breeze through it and feel all hunky dory and good about myself while I'm reading it. Um, this one it's a difficult read for me at least. I feel like I need to read a couple paragraphs, maybe a page at a time, and then reflect, meditate on it, and come back to it later. Um, and so right now I'm on page 31, and there's one big paragraph that I think has a lot of little gems in it, at least for me. So I'm going to share that one today and give my thoughts. It starts with everyone experiences fear, yet it would take very little right thinking to realize why fear occurs. Few appreciate the real power of the mind, and no one remains fully aware of it all the time. However, if you hope to spare yourself from fear, there are some things you must realize and realize fully. The mind is very powerful and never loses its creative force. So I take away from that, and I write these things down because otherwise I'm going to lose my focus when I'm talking to you guys. Um, it talks about how the mind is always creative, and a lot of people think that they aren't creative, but if you're a person who watches the news or documentaries or anything that kind of demonstrates the problems of the world or tells you what the problems of the world are, um, you start imagining future scary scenarios and wondering, oh, what's going to happen with the world in a year or 5 years? What's going to happen with my children? You start worrying about those things. And I think for me, it's been important to realize that those imaginings of those future fearful scenarios are your creativity, but it's your creativity used for your own destruction because it's fear based. So, a really powerful thing for me to realize was just that imagining future fearful scenarios is creativity used for your own destruction. Okay, and once you start to realize that, you become motivated to start using your creativity constructively. And so the takeaway for right now is just to realize that your creativity is on. It's always streaming, whether it's imagining a future fearful scenario or maybe you are using it constructively as well. All right, continuing. The mind is very powerful and never loses its creative force. It never sleeps. Every instant it is creating. It is hard to recognize that thought and belief combine into a power surge that can literally move mountains. It appears at first glance that to believe such power about yourself is arrogant, but that is not the real reason you do not believe it. So I get caught up in that all the time, judging myself as arrogant whenever I believe that my mind is really powerful. Um, Sometimes I judge myself as having delusions of grandeur and then I shut myself down. But it's true that your mind is incredibly powerful. Everything around you at this moment, it all started in the mind. All of it. And you have that creative force within you. All of us have that. All of us have the power to create whatever's around us. We just have to believe and open ourselves to that possibility and not judge ourselves as arrogant. Okay, moving on. You prefer to believe that your thoughts cannot exert real influence because you are actually afraid of them. Okay, so this is very in line with that one quote. I remember it from Coach Carter, but I don't know who originally said it. It says, "Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure." So we're afraid of what our minds are actually capable of because it puts a lot of responsibility on us. First of all, just to take responsibility for the situations that we're in our life is it's a tough thing to do. It was a tough thing for me to do for a long time. Um, Moving on to the next thing. It says, the next sentence, this may allay awareness of the guilt, but at the cost of perceiving the mind as impotent. So this one's a little bit tough for me to understand, but my understanding of it is when you believe your mind is very powerful, you feel guilty because you judge yourself as arrogant. So your solution to that is to believe that your mind is powerless. Do you see how both of those scenarios lead to shitty outcomes and shitty perceptions of yourself? Scenario one is you believe your mind is very powerful, but you feel guilty and arrogant for believing that way. Or you neuter your mind and believe that it has no such power to avoid feeling that guilt. Both of those are really shitty ways of viewing yourself. So the key is to accept and believe that your mind is very powerful. And there's no reason to feel arrogant and guilty about that. It's true. Okay, moving on. If you believe that what you think is ineffectual, you may cease to be afraid of it, but you are hardly likely to respect it. Meaning that once you've neutered your mind and you don't think it has power now, how can you even respect your own mind? How can you respect yourself? Continuing, there are no idle thoughts. All thinking produces form at some level. So once you realize that there are no idle thoughts, you're very motivated to change the way you think. Now the challenge is, at least the challenge for me has been that you can fall into a mode of perfectionism where you're nitpicking every little thought you have, and if you have a negative thought, you self-criticize, you self-judge, like, I'm doing it wrong, I suck. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to get angry with yourself. You just can't do that. You have to, you're learning. It's a learning process. So the key is to allow grace and patience for yourself. Think of if you were lovingly teaching a child how to think and use their mind more constructively, how would you do it? And then that's the exact way you have to teach yourself, and be patient with yourself. All right, that's all I've got to say today. Peace.